Hello and welcome. The Carlton-Collingwood rivalry is well and truly alive, but the tragedy from last season's round 23 defeat could not be translated into fuel to propel the Blues towards a victory. Whilst tempers flared on numerous occasions, there was only one side on the day positioned to do that: the Pies. These scuffles were the only instances where the Blues seemed to show fight on a day where the Pies outclassed the Blues. They ran harder and further, they tackled relentlessly, and most importantly, they capitalised. Today we're looking at a catalogue of errors made by Carlton on the weekend that was as a result of the Magpies, who were the pest that simply wouldn't piss off. First, let's pay the Magpies some credit. They were unbelievably good on the weekend. And a large portion of our errors were triggered by the pressure the Magpies created. To understand this, let's analyse one of the Pies' key contributors on the weekend and how they carried themselves, which embodied how they played. The player that I'm referring to is Beau McCreery. Man's work rate was unbelievable without the ball, and that's the kind of attitude a lot of Pies players carried on the weekend. You can see on this switch, McCreery isn't close, but he is rapid, so even if visibly you've got 15 meters of space, it's only a couple of seconds to possess the ball, and that can lead to panic and the fumbles. So he causes the slip with JSOS trying to evade, who then kicks it because he knows McCreery is on the prowl, and he's by the side of Carlton players as they possess it until they turn it over. From there, the Pies are very measured and precise with their handball game, releasing their teammates at the perfect time, and Adams is precise and very composed with the kick. Send it back a few seconds and you can see Ollie Hollands is overloaded with numerous Pies to deal with ahead and behind him. So that Adams snap, combined with the pace of the sequence, means Hollands has to stand the mark, whilst no Blues have recovered quickly enough to get across, and so Mitchell can offload it to a far better kick at goal. Here are some repeat efforts of McCreery. Gets it off Moore's palm down at halfback. Takes off, bypasses a couple Blues. Look, I know McCreery's a sprint effort, burst kind of player, but we've got players too worried about treading water and blocking the corridor, instead of identifying that Collingwood players are collapsing into a part of the field we're outnumbered. And so they can bypass whatever numbers we have in the corridor anyway. It's a good change up for a team who use the corridor a lot, and it keeps teams guessing. Back to McCreery, how hard has he worked to get this? To keep the play running smoothly, and they get a snag from this. That work rate saw them resuscitate broken possessions and make us severely overwhelmed when we had it. Even this example where he pressures Hollands, then he tracks the footy for a string of hand passes to help eventually sandwich Dirds into a dodgy kick to Harry, and that time he takes picking it up means numbers close and the kick isn't as casual as we want. That's McCreery's work right there, and that's the sort of pestiness that troubled us so much. Then there were errors that left only ourselves to blame. Quite a few of these had to do with defensive fundamentals. This one led to the first goal of the game. Gov knows his assignment for the short term is Bobby Hill, but his instincts are rubbish because he not once realises the danger of letting a forward, let alone a threatening small forward in Bobby Hill, sit goal side. And so, rightfully, Hill is first to the contest. There was plenty of time to get ahead of him, and he doesn't even try. This one, Blake Acres is too busy ball watching and going through the motions. He just lets Hoskin Elliott move to the right of Adams unattended, and I know it's a common thing in the AFL to prioritise clogging more central areas, but you can't just desert your man if the play has potential to possibly concede a score. We're lucky it doesn't, but the ball isn't getting to an Ollie Hollands one-on-one in the goal square if we cut the handball receive off. This one is pretty diabolical. I watched Beau McCreery the whole time Myercheck is surveying his options. The guy most qualified to watch him is Acres, who doesn't seem to have a direct opponent as he drops back. The expectation should be if you don't have a man, pick one up, especially that close to goal. He just lets him run free whilst he's walking and wants to sit on the back of the marking contest as the last line. Look, I get that's the role of a wingman because Sidebottom did it on numerous occasions, but you can't leave their smalls unattended as we said moments ago. What a coincidence, McCreery is the one kicking the goal. Sure, Akers fronted up to Ash Johnson and forced the handballer's help because both Pitto and Louis Young had zero impact in the aerial contest. But wow, where is the accountability? We do the same thing on the outer side where we sit behind the marking contest whilst the pie roves in front. This time, Bobby Hill takes it and Newman has to close out, but because Bobby Hill is running straight on towards goal, whilst Newman has to turn around, in a foot race, we know who's winning the battle with more pace behind them. Newman's looking around for help, but no one on the ground is going to give him any because they simply can't keep up. He burns everyone and absolutely nails the kick without Majacek breaking stride to cap off an excellent sequence. That kick is hard to do, especially when you're running at a pace where there is a risk of going so fast that it compromises your kick. But look, if we have an inch of physicality, these small forwards can't maximize their pace because you're doing something to impede their most dangerous trait. Here's one where Lewis Young is going through the motions. Mason Cox is beside him, literally pointing to the spot he wants it. That is a dead giveaway. Mason Cox is halfway down the runway when Young realizes Cox has left his side, and by then it's too late. McGovern's man puts the block on Young. Wieders is in two minds of whether or not to leave Bobby Hill, we know why, and takes too long to make that decision. And Bobby Hill evenly distributes his weight well, just to shield Wiedering away, so Cox is uncontested. It's a great kick, but with all that time on your hands to defend, you've got to be much more alert than that to switch, look out for your teammates, and most of all, be accountable. Sometimes we shirked at the idea of facing contact in a contact sport. Sounds ridiculous, I know. For a team happy to engage in niggle and jumper punching, we went missing when the ball was up for grabs. McGovern doesn't even put his body behind the footy on this play and the Pies continue their momentum forward for an entry when we're exposed. Look, I'll commend JSOS for keeping this play alive with numerous efforts to lock it in our forward half, but you can't be getting beaten to the ball by the tallest player on the ground. It's not going to cut it. I need him to put his body on the line. This Akers mark attempt looks like he's bracing for a hit from the right side and is almost trying to avoid it. And Ed needs to talk to him to call him out of the mark because Ed is leading at it from straight on and is better suited. Instead, far more focused on getting hit means he drops the mark. And then on two occasions we win possession twice and are met with no real time to think because the Pies are around every corner we turn. Some of our play wasn't even bad. We had some good handball chains, for example this one with Walshy, who does well to fake the handball and run inward, then to get the 1-2. Works his backside off to try to send it to the opposite side of the ground. And last week we talked about the benefits that could have. Though, in that example we touched on last week, there was no pressure by forwards to impact the play whilst out of possession. On this occasion, it's Jamie Elliott who cuts out the switch. That's just good team football where you're stepping up when your name is called. On the flip side, we were just straight trash in some instances. This kick is just horrible, irrespective of the Pies' efforts. He's kicked to two midfielders on the corner of the centre square and coughed it up to a man with years of experience and never short of class. And this, unsurprisingly, leads to a goal. This kick by Cottrell after we've won the ball back is incredibly misdirected. No blue has a sniff. This one's not good enough by Charlie, who's taken a mark from a backline kick to slingshot us into an attacking move. Harry's had to pull up his run to the wing and has been caught under the ball because the kick is just rubbish. With such a huge size mismatch, isolated one-on-one, with no one else even remotely close, that is a stinker of a kick. This is a poor one by Ed Curnow, who simply needs to lower his eyes where he'll see Walshy 15 meters away wide open. And he's also got a Harry lead in the pocket. Instead, he thought always on a taller defender was a better option, and he still couldn't hit that target. This is a similar example where we fail to lower the eyes. One of the few handball chains that were effective in brushing Collingwood aside, and was good to watch, went to complete waste. The reason Doc kicks the footy is because Moore heads towards him. That should give him the signal that Harry is now a free man and just needs to pivot to straighten up for a kick. And even if that wasn't the case, he's got all this room to send it to Charlie, who's got separation. He might as well have saved his hamstring and thrown the ball, because what on earth was he thinking here? This is poor by Sardi late in the game, who was non-existent for the duration of the game. Credit to Collingwood for cancelling him out like many good teams this season. Often when he's not playing well, the team doesn't play well. This is a poor kick by Weeders that sits up far too long, and nor does Jack Silvani come to meet it. You can see the difference in the eagerness to win the footy. Accelerating ahead, there's probably a free here, but who cares, because McCreary bypasses everyone easy as you like without breaking a sweat, and Myercheck makes sure of it. This is a poor decision by Chera. He's kicked it inboard, low, and to the right of a tree trunk. Pitto just re-signed today with the club, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tore up his contract if he's getting hung out to dry like that. This one's a shank by Boydie, who we've supposedly brought in to resolve our kicking issues. We're just handing the ball to them. This is one that under no circumstances should happen, especially from a player like Walshy, and especially after a great rundown tackle to win the ball back for our team. The Magpies worked their asses off in another simple way. We talk about these turnovers and how the Magpies punished us when we committed them. But what about when the Magpies turned it over themselves? Their game style is very much like living life on the edge. Turnovers are inevitable, but rarely, if ever, could we capitalize, even though their turnovers occurred in a vulnerable spot, because their recovery was brilliant. Here's exactly what the Pies do on a week-by-week basis. Live by the dangerous kick, die by the dangerous kick. Dacos kicks it off the outside into the space that favours two Pies. It bypasses the first, but Jamie Elliott traps it as the second and eliminates Doc, who thinks it's going to clean bowl him. You've got the run-off halfback from Maynard, who is the relief here, and that burst propels him forward with the momentum needed to send a punching hand pass to Pendlebury in space. Once the line has been breached, Pendles has a dangerous amount of time to assess his options, and we're just grateful the mark was dropped because the kick was centimetre perfect. Here's an example where we overcame this brilliant defensive recovery. You can see the wave of Pies numbers just bolting forward, beating the Blues plays they're running alongside, encouraging other plays to push up to stop the Pies in their tracks. Even though the Blues have left a Pie unattended, the straight angle and Myercheck running away from the carrier at first means it's a loopy handball that becomes a hospital hand pass because he's stationary on the gather. Despite us getting first dibs on multiple occasions, our points of taking possession are met with a tackle almost instantly. It takes a Walsh sidestep to bypass the incoming threat, yet even still, that fear of just getting run down means the rationale goes out the window and we're kicking without thinking. Here's another occurrence. The Pies turn it over from about 80 out from goal. This one's more tucked away out wide, but still. The Magpies don't even let the ball get really back inside our 50 from this error, constantly on our tail with incredible recovery. Kennedy made a mistake in not passing it off to Hollands, who can kick on both sides where we can hit the hot spot. And so Noble, the man who turned it over, smothers it, then pressures again. The next kick is badly affected, and once again, two possessions of ours are hit immediately with pressure. Always is dispossessed before he even gets it. And then this is phase 2. Pendlebury has turned it over in a far worse spot. Given it entered from this direction, the wise thing would be to take it to the fat side where Carlton players should be anticipating it will go after the butchered kick. You've got Jamie Elliott doing well to delay things by encouraging an extra handball from Boyd. And so by the time we've kicked it through Doc, Walshy has got Crisp to contend with. And like on many occasions, we got thrust aside far too easily, destroyed in the physicality department. And whilst the kick only ever favours Crisp, this is just another clear example. Look, you can see the difference in the examples I've shown where we turn it over and their turnovers. Sometimes you don't see us lay a glove on them when we stuff things up, but they're always rectifying their mistakes because they're hungrier, they're more alert, and they're more organised. To put it simply, Collingwood are the #1 ranked team in the comp for a reason. And if you can't match their energy levels, whilst simultaneously keeping them comfortable as they play the way they want to play, it's going to be a long day at the office. And that is why the Blues ended up on the wrong end of a 28-point margin. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new. The more the better when it comes to having a conversation about these things, so let me know what you think. We'll be back for the round 11 analysis. Bye for now.